Today we're taking a look at Starfield and the RTX 4090. On the screen right now, I have all of my testing hardware used for all of these benchmarks. In short, it's a 4090 7800X 3D DDR5 memory running at 5600 megahertz. Now, all of the benchmarks will be in 4K, mostly native 4K. I will have one set of benchmarks at the end using FSR. The reason why I did not test 1440p or anything like that is simply because the PC options are really bad in Starfield. If you want to play the game in full screen, you have to use your monitor's native resolution. There is no way around that. If you try to change it to 1440p or 1080p or anything like that, it forces you to play in a windowed mode. Obviously, that would not help anybody or be beneficial information, and so I decided not to do that. And lastly, anytime you set a quality preset in Starfield, it automatically turns on dynamic resolution scaling and FSR. And to make matters worse, FSR doesn't even tell you what kind of FSR it is. You have no idea if it's FSR quality, performance, ultra performance, balanced, or anything like that. It just says FSR. Like I said, the PC menu options are not that great in Starfield, unfortunately. But I know to turn all of this stuff off, run things natively, and at the end, we will finish up with FSR. Now, let's get into it. Okay, at native 4K on the Ultra preset, no FSR and no dynamic resolution scaling, we are averaging about 75 FPS in New Atlantis. I can tell you from my experience playing on this last night, in the opening area, when you first start the game, you're closer to about 95, 100 FPS. After you get knocked out and you wake up, you're at about 55 FPS. And then when you actually get into space and you go to your first mission and all of that stuff, then you're around 80, 90 FPS. And so I can confirm it really depends on where you are. Your frame rate is a little bit higher in space as opposed to being in something like this right here in New Atlantis. And I will admit, it's a 4090 and a 7800X 3D with DDR5 memory. I would fully expect this game to run a little bit better with much higher frame rate, but this game is incredibly demanding. It's hard for me to sit here and say it's not optimized or something like that when I'm getting 98, 99% GPU utilization. And so it may be one of those situations where we're CPU bound. We see a lot of that these days, but either way, the game is demanding. I don't really get it. I feel like the game shouldn't be this demanding, but it is what it is. It is playable at least, and it is better than 30 FPS that you get on a console, but still, yeah, not quite what I expected. Now looking at native 4K on the low quality preset, no FSR, no dynamic resolution scaling. And as you can see, our frame rate shot up quite substantially by about 25 FPS on average, maybe a little bit more depending on where you are. But now instead of averaging around 75 FPS, we're averaging around 100 FPS. And I can say that low quality settings don't really look that bad here. Yeah, there's a little bit of shimmering and stuff like that if you really want to pixel peep, but overall, this looks pretty good to be a low quality preset, and the performance benefit is quite noticeable here. Now we're at native 4K on the medium quality preset, and as you can see, we're at about 95 FPS on average. That is not that bad when compared to the low quality preset. You can make the argument here, you could use the medium quality preset, get a slight bump in your visual fidelity, and not really notice that much of an impact on your overall frame rate performance. And so the medium quality preset here is not that bad. The only thing I'm a little bit disappointed in is the fact that it's a 4090 and we're talking about medium settings and still not even hitting 100 FPS. But that's the world we live in 2023 gaming. Am I right? And now we're looking at 4K resolution, medium preset with FSR enabled. And unfortunately, again, like I was saying before, I have no idea if this FSR is quality mode, performance mode, balanced, or whatever. It is simply an on or off toggle. And with FSR on, shooting for 4K resolution, medium quality preset, no dynamic resolution scaling, you can see we're comfortably averaging about 114 FPS. Honestly, that's not bad. The FSR implementation here is actually quite nice. It rivals native. In some cases, it might even look a little bit better than native. I've seen other reviewers point that out. Medium settings also look very nice. And so if you're one of those players who want to have above 100 FPS no matter what you're playing, this might be the right combination of settings for you, medium settings and FSR enabled. And I know, as with everything in our PC community, everybody's kind of torn on things. Some people absolutely do not want to use FSR or DLSS or any other type of upscaling technologies. Other people don't believe in having to resort to medium settings. I mean, it really just depends on who you are, but medium settings here actually look quite nice. And the FSR implementation is also quite nice. And with this set of hardware, you can expect about 114 FPS, which is not bad at all. And now for the final test, I decided to just leave everything maxed out on default. So that means 4K, ultra preset, FSR enabled, dynamic resolution scaling enabled. I just wanted to see what the default settings would be. You just turned it on and left everything alone. So as you can see, the average frame rate here is about 84 to 85 FPS. And depending on what side of the map you're on for New Atlantis, you might be in the 80s or you might be in the 70s. It really just depends. And in some places of the map, we're even around 90 FPS. And so it really just depends here. And I'm afraid that it appears for the ultra quality preset, it's just not scaling the same way that it should, because I would expect this type of frame rate performance on native 4K. In fact, we actually did get about the same frame rate performance on native 4K. But right now in this case, you're talking about both FSR and dynamic resolution scaling being enabled, and still you're getting these types of numbers. It's almost as if FSR is not working or DRS isn't working or something like that. But really what I think it is just the ultra quality preset. We've seen time and time again over the years in a wide variety of different video games that ultra settings don't scale well. They're hardly ever optimized, and typically they lead to a bad experience. And so I would not recommend running ultra for Starfield. And that's it. Short, sweet, and to the point. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do me a favor, hit that like button because it goes a long way in helping me out. And if you're new, get subscribed. I will say Starfield is turning out to be a pretty good game, and I'm looking forward to playing it a little bit more. Let me know in the comment section below what you're thinking about Starfield. What is your hardware? How are you playing this game? Console, PC? And if you're on PC, what is your frame rate? What are your settings? I want to talk about it because I'm very curious to know how well this game actually scales. I'm also disappointed there's no DLSS or frame generation or anything like that. We're only limited to FSR. I'm not really a fan of upscaling in general, but if we're going to use it, then I would like to be able to use DLSS, as that is typically the superior technology. But again, let me know your thoughts down below. Thanks again for hanging out with me, and until next time, E-Rock out.